we'll go ahead and start up for the day. And this is our last one for the year. And we want to say thank you to everybody who has joined us throughout the year. I hope you've really gained a lot of extra knowledge and, a lot of good talking points around all these categories we've talked about this year, going into next year. So, again, thank you for joining us for all of these. And thank you for joining us today, where we're going to end the year talking about door lock actuators. And, sometimes we hear door lock actuator and people think, well, who cares? It's a door lock actuator, right? It locks the door. Well, they're a lot more complex these days, and they're a very large category and growing category in a bunch of different spaces. So that's why we're talking about them, because they are a great growth category. They're also, in many cases, a high ticket item that's going to help grow your sales rather quickly if we're out there discussing this with technicians and shop owners. So again, thanks for being here, and let's get started with talking about door lock actuators. So what we're going to cover, this is very high level, obviously. We're going to briefly talk about how they work, some reasons why they fail. We're going to talk about the quality behind the standard category of door lock actuators, look at some popular applications that are really good kickoff points, talking points when we get into those shops and talk to those technicians. We're going to look at some of the competitive landscape, and much like every other category we've talked about this year, again, I think you'll be very happy to see where we stack up against the competition. We're going to go over a few sales tips that will help you when you're having those conversations, and then we'll wrap up the call with some new information and sales support that's going to, again, get those conversations going and really pass that knowledge on to our customers so that they know what they have in the box there. So again, what is a door lock actuator? How does it work? Well, the reality is, I understand, we all agree, the main goal is to lock and unlock the doors, right? So it should be that simple, but it's really not anymore. We can have integrated and non-integrated door lock actuators, and that goes for the lift gate, the tailgate, the trunk, and the hood. And what I mean by integrated and non-integrated, some of these door lock actuators are very robustly wrapped up into so many other mechanisms within the vehicle now that it's more of a, computer controlled or a PCM controlled device versus just a simple put the key in the door, unlock it, or lock it. These have a lot of technology behind them now when they are integrated. Now, we still have a lot of vehicles on the road that are non-integrated. And so a good example of that, just to give you an idea of what that means, if your key fob, if you can hold down a button and the trunk or the hatch opens powered, then that would be an integrated door lock actuator. If you have a vehicle that's a little older where you still have to go and push a button and manually lift the gate, then that would be a non-integrated door lock actuator. Now, there's a lot of complexity to that, but that's the simple understanding of the difference. And really what we're looking at today are primarily going to be integrated, because that's just where the market has gone. And so again, yes, they are supposed to lock and unlock the doors, but there's a lot of safety mechanisms within these systems as well. And so because of that, every door lock actuator should meet the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards and the requirements for the door ejection safety. And so what that means is, if there's a rollover crash, if there's a hard impact, the door should stay shut. It should not open, and it should not allow the driver to be ejected from the vehicle. So, this is a big deal when we talk to our customers, making sure they understand, sure, you can go online and probably find something very cheap, get it in, a week, but will it meet that requirement? And a lot of times the answer is going to be no. So that's a very big, important thing. And with door lock actuators, we have seen a lot of evolution. So again, I talked about integrated versus non-integrated. Well, we can go back 30, 40 years and talk about different versions, but let's look at 2005 and up. Now, in 05 to 2015, we still had a lot of separation. We had separate door lock actuators. We had a motor plus a linkage. They had basic lock and unlock features with key fob control, and you would find those in most mass market vehicles. And that's where you would find maybe the key fob unlocks the front doors, but you still have to lift the hatch manually. Well, we bump into 2015 up through 2020. Now we see a lot of adoption in the integrated door lock actuators and the early E-latch system, which is going to allow for soft closing, anti-pinch, and even sensor integration as well. Now, we saw that a lot and more so on the luxury brands and some mid-range vehicles. Now, when I say mid-range, that can also include different levels of vehicles. So, for example, I have a 2013 Ford Escape. It's the low end model, so I have to lift the gate manually. Well, if I were to go up 3 or 4 levels and get, I think it's the titanium or the premium or whatever it's called, then I would have the auto function on the key fob to lift the gate integrated. So we saw a little bit of, adoption there throughout different systems. Well, now we fast forward to today, between 2020 and 2025, most of the manufacturers out there have moved into that fully integrated e-latch system. And again, that's going to include a lot of the stuff that came with the 15 to 20, but we're also now going to have cinching. We're going to have power release, flush handles on some of the EV models, and a lot more application or remote control. So, when you want to start your car in the morning on a cold day, that's part of that app control, but you can also unlock the doors, lock the doors, roll the windows down, those kind of things. That's where we see fully integrated systems coming in. And you will find that in pretty much every premium vehicle, most of the SUVs, and then also most of the new EVs. So again, when we talk about door lock actuators, I get it. We got to lock and unlock the door, but in some cases, it takes a lot of components and systems in place to achieve that task safely and efficiently. And so with that evolution, we've seen a lot of different reasons why these can fail. Now, there's obviously wear and tear, right? So that constant usage of the door lock actuator can just wear them down. And we see this a lot with fleets and municipalities, especially, police vehicles, EMS, and then all those Ford F-150s and those, Chevrolet trucks that are running around and checking meters and things like that. A lot of wear and tear on these systems. We can also have now a lot of electrical issues. So again, these systems are integrated now. They go through, in some cases, the body control module, sometimes a door control module, working through the ECU. So any, issue with a electrical current getting to the door lock actuator can be a big issue. And some of that is caused by moisture and corrosion. 25 years ago, if you accidentally left your window down in a rainstorm, it probably would maybe rust something or cause a little bit of an issue with the door latch or, the locking mechanism a little bit, and you could just replace a quick part. Well, not anymore. If you do that today, there's a lot of electronic components inside the door behind that panel, including the window motor, the regulator, the door lock actuator, all the wiring that goes to the body control module or the ECU. And so moisture and corrosion are a big deal when it comes to these components now. We can't just leave the window down and then wipe off the brim there and say, okay, well, it's good. Obviously, if we have water get down in there, it's going to cause issues. So we want to be careful about that. And then, of course, physical damage. In some cases, just slamming the door really hard one time can do a lot of damage inside of that door, behind that panel. And we won't see it until we start noticing a problem with our doors not locking and unlocking like we want to. And then, of course, age. Any mechanical component, these may have electronic components tied to them, but there's still a mechanical aspect of that component that has to do the actual work. And so those can degrade with age as well. So there's a lot of reasons why they will fail, but really it's overuse and allowing moisture and corrosion to build or water to get in there and cause electrical issues. We also have a lot of TSB and recalls when it comes to door lock actuators. And, Ford's not alone on this. We just picked on Ford here because I love the saying here. Ford recalls 2.2 million vehicles again due to faulty door latch systems, right? So this particular part number, DLA 1482, covers 3.7 million vehicles in operation on the road today. And who knows if they've actually all been taken care of in a recall. I think we all get recall notices and go, and just walk away from it. Well, there's a time limit on that, right? If you pass that time limit, they're not required to fix that for you anymore. And in a lot of cases, that's what's on the road right now. So we have a lot of opportunities just with that one part number that was already faulty directly from the manufacturer. So there are the regular wear and tear reasons, the regular reasons that they fail, but there's also a lot of issues in the OE, the original manufacturing of these door lock actuators. So it gives us a great opportunity, especially if you look at the year ranges on here, 2014 through 2018, that's already in our sweet spot of the vehicles that we can cover and take care of on a pretty much every category basis. So door lock actuators are no different, and it's going to be a great opportunity for us. So before I pass it over to our product team, let me just give you a couple tips here. This is when we're talking to not only technicians, but even DIY customers coming in the store. We have to make sure they remember the door latch is separate from the actuator on most vehicles, or really many vehicles. So we need to remind them to also inspect the latch before installing a new door lock actuator. It could be that the latch is part of the problem and may have caused part of the failure with the mechanical portion of the door lock actuator. So we don't want to replace one and not the other. It'd be kind of like putting a new ignition coil in a motor with a bad pigtail, right? We want to make sure both are working properly. And we also want to remind them to verify the actuator is getting power. So you have years of opening and closing the doors, and it can cause damage to the wiring, especially in the door jamb itself. When you open that door, and right up in the door jamb, you see that thick wire loom that comes out. That is one of the most common places that these will fail. And a technician may end up replacing 2, 3, 4 door lock actuators, and they don't work. They keep getting sent back under warranty, but the reality is they need to go check that door jamb and make sure that none of those wires are pinched, cut, or frayed, because that's the main hub right there. Everything under the dash that controls the door lock actuator sends the signals through that loom, through the door jamb, to actually send the signal to the door lock actuator. If there's a cutoff there at that door jamb, we're going to have a big issue. So if you do have a technician that's having repeated issues with an actuator, make sure to remind them to check that door jamb and make sure that there's no issues with the wiring. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to our product team and Mr. Benjamin. He's going to go through some really good information and content that I think is going to help you understand just the breadth of coverage that we have and the types of customers we can service today with door lock actuators. So Benjamin, the show is yours, sir. I think they're ready to learn.
Thank you, Corey. As previously stated, the DLAs or door lock actuators handle the locking and unlocking of the vehicle's doors. We offer a full range of options from integrated to non-integrated designs, all meeting the federal motor vehicle safety standards, covering everything from lift gates and tailgates to trunks and hoods. Door lock actuators are an important component of the collision program because they're often located in high collision points. In addition, trunk and lock and liftgate actuators are located in the rear of the vehicle and are easily damaged in a rear-end collisions, while hood latches and actuators are impacted by front-end collisions. Our solution to this is we offer direct fit hood latches and actuators featuring a programming-free design for easier installation. Our DLAs are built for performance and reliability. Each unit undergoes rigorous environmental and endurance testing to ensure long-lasting operation. Our precision manufacturing means the parts fit right and work right, and with decades of research and development behind them, our actuators are engineered to address common OE failure points and provide a dependable long-term solution. Before I get into this slide, I would like to just take a quick moment to introduce myself. I'm the product manager for this line, but before this, I was a parts manager at a dealership. For years, I've worked hand in hand with mechanics. I've been the counter person ordering inventory and dealing with customers directly. And I share this with you to express that I know what it's like being on the other side of that conversation. With that being said, I would like to show you our top-selling DLAs. These 10 DLAs alone have thousands of sales. And I just wanted to stress their importance because, like I've said, I've been on the other end where I've had a customer come in and I've lost a sale because I didn't stock a part. So again, I wanted to stress these because I want to ensure that you'll have every opportunity to keep the customer satisfied, and these top 10 parts will help do so. As a quick example, if you take a look on the right hand of the chart, you'll see they cover major makes such as Ford, Honda, and Acura, as well as their major models like Ford's F-Series and Honda's CR-V and Civic. These reviews highlight how well our DLAs perform in real-world applications. Customers consistently mention easy installation, solid quality, and dependable operation across different makes and models. Every DLA we offer meets the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards for door ejection safety. Aligning with OE level expectations, our catalog now features more than 1,127 SKUs, and we're planning at least 23 more releases in 2026. My job as product manager is to continuously support this line and regularly evaluate carry-up coverage. With extensive research, we regularly add vehicle coverage with existing part numbers, to ensure applications aren't missed and sales aren't lost. With focus on quality over quantity, we are smart about our coverage and consolidation and are able to offer better coverage with less part numbers compared to our competitor. One example of this is part DLA 1532, where by removing cables and eliminating unnecessary brackets, this enables us to offer actuator-only solutions, allowing for this actuator to be interchangeable between the driver and passenger side. Here we compare our DLA coverage to key competitors. Standard leads the category with over 1,100 total parts, far ahead of Dorman and Wells. We also offer significantly more liftgate, trunk, and hood actuators, while also offering 156 aftermarket exclusive parts. Overall, this positions us with the strongest coverage and the most complete DLA program in the market. Finally, I would just like to highlight part EVB006. While this part demonstrates our ability to bring complete problem-solving kits to the market, while also showing that we're committed to developing parts for electric vehicles. And with that, I'll finish things on the product side, and now I'll pass it over to Aaron with marketing. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. That was great.
Thank you.
This category is maybe a little bit unique. It's one of the categories that we offer that you're able to bring to multiple types of repair facilities and customers. So, thinking about who it's worth talking to this category about, I think the first one is fleets and municipalities. If you're in an urban area, then certainly folks that are managing fleets for Uber or taxi cabs, those are unique because they actually tend to wear out the rears faster than the driver's side on door lock actuators just because of use. But other fleet vehicles that folks are getting in and out of 15, 20 times a day. Heck, for you outside salespeople, this might be right up your alley. I know how many times you guys get in and out of a car. But that's reality. Fleets and municipalities, tend to be a pretty good market for door lock actuators. Of course, general repair facilities are heavily involved in replacing these as they fail for mechanical failures. But then the last thing is collision centers. Not every category or every part that we offer makes sense to bring to collision centers. But this is certainly one of them, and it's not just the doors, right? It's often the hood or the trunk lock actuators that are damaged in collisions. So there's multiple outlets that we can bring this category to. There's another way to hopefully get some add-on business as well as increasing customer satisfaction and having a good discussion that can prevent an irate customer down the road. And that's, doing the simple thing of recommending a door lock actuator when they're replacing a window lift motor. There's a couple reasons for this. One is the very same things that cause window lift motors to fail also cause door lock actuators to fail, right? Whether it's moisture, an impact, some kind of electrical issue, or maybe the vehicle is just 25 years old. But the reason that we want to recommend it, it's a little bit like, a water pump with a timing belt. You're already there. Somebody's already going through the effort to remove the door panel. So they're there. It's not much extra labor. But I think the biggest reason is, what happens if you have a customer's door off, or if one of your customers has the door off on one of their customers' vehicles, puts the door back on, the door panel back on, and then in 2-3 months, the door lock actuator fails, right? They're going to come back to the shop and say, well, it worked fine for 20 years. Then you took my door panel off, and now my door lock actuator doesn't work. So you need to fix this, and I'm not paying. I mean, that's a very real type of discussion that happens. That's why it's so important to, at least on the front end, say something like, look, your door lock actuator is the same age as the window lift motor, 20 years old or whatever it is. While we're in there, we're going to pull the panel. We strongly recommend replacing this actuator as well, because same thing that caused the window lift motor to fail have caused the door lock actuator to fail. and in some cases vice versa. So I think it's a very, very good idea to at least have this discussion. There's also several materials that we've recently created for you, so you can bring this to the street and talk about with your service provider customers. So, we do have the new "What's in Your Box" flyer that's available from your standard rep. It's also available on our website at digitalresources.com. We've recently created the up and coming flyer that's available from your standard rep that shows the numbers that we've released in the last couple years that we're really starting to see a lot of movement on from a sales out perspective. So that's a really good list to get to make sure that you're stocking the right numbers so you're positioned well to grow this category in the future. As you probably know, we have a pretty robust YouTube channel with almost 750 videos. We're fortunate enough to have built that out to about 86,000 subscribers. So that's a good resource, especially for this category. And then Door Lock Actuators really fit into part of our broader collision repair program. So you can read more about this category as well as the other products offered in our collision repair program in our digital product portfolio. That's available if you go to standardbrand.com, go to the digital resources tab, and then there's a search bar on top. You can just type collision, and that'll bring up this detailed, 20-some page portfolio. We've also recently released a video with our friend Corey, who you heard from at the very beginning of this. This is a really good 3-minute video that does a nice job of summarizing largely what we've talked about today, but it's a great resource for you to show new employees as they join, or some of your coworkers that weren't able to make today's call. And that's right in our YouTube channel on the Standard Brand channel. And then, lastly, to bring this home, to make sure you feel comfortable and confident about recommending our door lock actuators, especially over some of the other ones that are out there, it's supported by a strong national brand, a company that has its own research and development facilities, a company that has its own manufacturing facilities, its own and very, very detailed testing capabilities. So these are products that can be tested in the lab, cycle tested for durability, as well as on vehicle tested to make sure they integrate with the electronic system correctly. And then, we certainly try our best to arm you with knowledge and materials, so you're able to take some of this message to the street and talk about it with your customers. So, yeah, that's what we have for you today. And thank you very, very much for tuning in.